before the war, they knew that from what had happened in the Spanish Civil War, that the major centres of population, like cities and ports, were going to be bombed. So in 1936, Parliament came up with the idea that they would have air raid protection wardens in all centres of population, and it was they asked for volunteers, and it was basically people who would not be called up to the armed forces, so they were either in protected jobs or they were beyond military age. And they wanted responsible people, and they wanted generally one, and they were started off as males, as men only, one per street. And they would set up an area warden's sort of office or centre in an area of streets. So it was organised on a street by street basis. And the idea was of recruiting local people was they knew all the people who would know all the people who lived in their street, and therefore if there was an air raid they would know who would need special help getting to an air raid shelter, and after the raid they'd know who was injured or dead or whatever, and they'd be able to assist better in that respect.
Make new garments, knitting for our boys who are out there fighting. We've got balaclava here to keep heads warm. For us ladies, we've got some knitted underwear, that because we can't buy nice underwear nowadays, so we're actually having to make our own. I won't ask you to model what you're wearing. No. But keeps you warm though. Keeps you warm, but this is a nice cardigan as well that's also been made warm. And I'm just having a look to see what I'm going to make next out of my book, to see whether I can find anything for a baby that's coming, so not me. So I'm having a look in here to see what there is we can knit and what we've got the material for. We've got equipment there to do some darning so that we can repair the socks that the holes come in, and we've got a nice little sewing machine here that we've just sort of pulled together using little bits of materials so that we don't have to use all the steel that's been used for ships and weapons. We've got some books here to keep the children amused when we go to the shelters at night time. Games and stories and things to take the minds off the bombs dropping, and we've got some recipe books as well, because we have to cook from potatoes and carrots, seems to be the most common ingredients.
Which is the female version of the RAF, the Women's Auxiliary Air Force, and we would do jobs on airfields, perhaps in an operations room, plotting the directions of perhaps incoming airplanes and something like that, and sometimes they would do jobs on the aircraft themselves, they would be act as mechanics and so on.
Well, the uniform that I'm wearing, what's left of it, is actually the Women's Land Army. Because most of the guys that worked the fields left to fight or whatever, meant that there was a shortage of labour on the farms. So the Women's Land Army was restarted, because it was originally started in the Great War, to take over the jobs in the fields. Now at the moment I'm sewing because it's my day off, so I'm doing my bit for the cause. But normally be all the agricultural work, field work and forestry as well, so any timber and lumber was also provided by the girls of the Land Army and the Timber Corps. So this is why I'm literally in dungarees and a colourless shirt, because it was a working uniform, not a civilian service. It was also very hard wearing on the clothes, so they generally wore what they could find.